Most of human history, doing nothing was the most productive thing a human could do. Cavemen had no jobs, no calendars, no deadlines. After the hunt was over, the meal was eaten, and the beer was poured. There were hours, sometimes days, of just sitting around the fire, nothing to fill. And here's the strange thing. Almost everything humans now call culture, music, art, jewelry, dance, tattoos, games, every one of these was invented in those hours. Not when humans were starving, not when they were struggling to survive, when they were bored. The first farmer would not show up until 12,000 years ago. The first city, 6,000. Before any of that, before writing or wheels or kings, your ancestors were sitting in caves, carving flutes out of bird bones, painting walls with their hands, drilling holes in snail shells, and inventing, out of sheer boredom, every form of art human beings have ever practiced. This is what cavemen actually did when they had nothing to do. To understand it, you have to understand what bored meant for a hunter-gatherer. It did not mean Sunday afternoon. It did not mean scrolling. Hunter-gatherers worked. They hunted, gathered, processed food, made tools, looked after children. Modern anthropology puts their total work time at around 40 hours a week, about the same as you. The myth that they only worked 15 hours? That came from the anthropologist Marshall Solins in 1972, and it has since been revised. They were busy, but the kind of work was different. Hunting was maybe a few hours, a few days a week. The rest of the time, they were together. Sitting at a fire, watching the kids, processing bones, soaking hides. Hours of low stakes, low pressure presence. And in those hours, with nothing demanding their attention, the human brain did what it does best. It got restless. And it started making things. The mechanism is simple. You have a hand. You have a stick. You have a flat patch of cave wall. You have hours. What happens? You scratch. You draw. You hum a sound. You realize the noise the hollow bone makes when you blow across it is kind of nice. You roll a smooth pebble between your fingers, and you remember another smooth pebble across the camp. And you start to wonder if you could win the other one off your cousin somehow. This is not deep philosophy. This is what brains do when nothing else is happening. The reason boredom matters in human evolution is that it is the only space where attention can drift inward. When you are hunting, your brain is doing prediction and pursuit. When you are cooking, you are doing sequence and timing. But when you are sitting, you start to notice that the bones sound musical, that the ochre stains your hands red, that your cousin's necklace has more shells than yours. Boredom isn't the absence of activity. It is the presence of unused mental capacity. And in human beings, unused mental capacity becomes art, especially with something in the cup. The mild buzz of a fermented drink does what the empty cave does. It loosens the mind, lets attention drift, lets the brain off the leash. It is no coincidence that the people who invented beer are the same people who invented art. We can prove this happened with hard archaeology. The oldest known musical instrument is a bone flute, carved from the wing bone of a griffon vulture, found in a cave in southern Germany. It is 42,000 years old, 5 finger holes, a V-shaped mouthpiece. Someone sat down 42,000 years ago, drilled holes in a vulture wing, and made music. That is older than farming by 30,000 years, older than the wheel by 36,000. The oldest known animal painting is a wild pig on a cave wall in Sulawesi, Indonesia. 45,500 years old, dated by a 2021 study in the journal Science Advances. And in 3 Spanish caves, El Castillo, La Pasiega, Maltravieso, there are red hand stencils painted on the walls that have been dated to at least 64,000 years ago. Modern humans had not even arrived in Europe yet. The hands belong to Neanderthals, a different species with smaller social groups, harder lives, and they were still using their spare time to leave their handprints on a cave wall. Art is older than us. Art is older than our species. There were 4 big categories of caveman entertainment, and we have hard evidence for every one of them. Number 1, music. The Hola Fels flute, 42,000 years old, plus older companion flutes from Geisenklosterle, possibly 43,000 years old. Sound was art before paint was. Number 2, visual art, hand stencils, animal paintings, geometric engravings. Blombo's cave in South Africa contains more than 8,000 pieces of ochre, ground into crayons, dated between 71 and 100,000 years ago. Number 3, games and gambling. Knuckle bones, sheep ankle bones used as 4-sided dice, appear all over Eurasia at least 5,000 years ago. The royal game of the oldest board game we can still play, is 4,600 years old. We have the rules on a cuneiform tablet. Number 4, body art and jewelry. The Iceman, Ötzi, who passed 5,300 years ago in the Alps, has 61 tattoos on his body. The oldest known jewelry, drilled snail shell beads, is from a cave in Morocco, 142,000 years old. Music, art, games, tattoos. Same 4 things you will probably do this weekend. Here is where it gets stranger. These were not accidents, they were not one-off discoveries. The whole Fels flute is precision engineered. The finger holes are spaced for a recognizable musical scale. Someone before them had been making flutes long enough that they knew what worked. The Sulawesi pig is part of an entire scene. Humans hunting, charging, in narrative composition. Storytelling, frozen on a wall. The Bismune snail shells, 142,000 years old, are drilled, polished, and threaded on cord. That is not one person finding a shiny shell. That is a tradition, a craft, a signal to other people. I made this. I have status. I have time. Boredom did not just give us things to do. It gave us things to show off with. The first influencer did not invent likes. They invented a necklace, walked into the next camp, and waited to see who noticed. Everything modern humans value about culture, music, beauty, ornament, story was already running, fully formed, by the end of the Stone Age. So look at your weekend. You put on music. Someone in southern Germany did the same thing 42,000 years ago with a vulture bone. You scroll through art. Someone in Indonesia did the same thing 45,500 years ago, stopping in front of a painted pig. You play a game on your phone. Someone in Iraq played the royal game of on a wooden board with carved sheep bone dice, 4,600 years ago. You think about a tattoo. Ötzi got 61 of them, with charcoal, rubbed into incisions. He has, we measured, the oldest tattoos on any human body. You put on a necklace. The woman who threaded the bismune shells did the same thing 142,000 years ago. We still have her beads. Every form of fun you have is older than every form of work. It is tempting to romanticize this. Marshall Salins did in 1972. He called hunter-gatherers the original affluent society, all leisure and no labor. Modern anthropology has pushed back. The total work was real. Hides had to be tanned. Wood had to be carried. Life expectancy was short, but the boredom hours were real too. And what humans did with those hours built every culture that ever existed. Salins was wrong about the count. He was right about the engine. Here is one last thing. In Australia, there are Aboriginal communities who tell stories, old stories, passed down purely by mouth, sung in dances, about coastlines that have since been flooded. In 2016, a geographer and a linguist tested 21 of these stories against the actual post-glacial sea level rise. The stories were accurate to within meters. Some of them describe events that happened over 10,000 years ago. 400 generations of human beings sitting around fires, telling the same story carefully enough that the great 400 greats-grandchildren still know it by heart. That is what cavemen did when they were bored. They sat around, they made music, they drew on walls, they wore beads, they got tattooed, they played dice, they danced, they told stories. And the people they did all of it with, the friends, the strangers, the rivals around those same fires, sharing those same cups, that is the next story. Stick around.